These rules of wisdom that have been handed down through generations, and your victory will be complete. Japan can be ruled completely by only one man, a great warrior, general, and strategist. To become shogun will require battles to be won with the mind as well as the sword. Now is your time. Let total war begin.
Shogun Total War was announced in early 1999. The game was developed by Creative Assembly under Electronic Arts. The Creative Assembly had previously created games for the EA Sports brand. Development was led by Michael Simpson, a former microchip designer who had joined the company 3 years prior. According to Simpson, Shogun was conceived when Creative Assembly established a secondary development team from their EA Sports designers to develop an alternate, low-risk product for the company. At the time, Command & Conquer had risen to success, inspiring the creation of a number of similar real-time strategy games. Simpson's development team therefore initially planned to create a B-title RTS game. It actually started when I joined the company, reveals Simpson. Then there were 5 people doing a sports game, a rugby game. We were looking at setting up a second team and wanted to find something which was relatively safe and not very challenging, unsurprisingly. At that point, Command & Conquer clones had come out. Things like Kill, Crush and Destroy. We looked at them and thought, these are easy to do. It's fairly formulaic and you can't really go wrong. And they're selling bucket loads. As development progressed, 3DFX video cards were becoming more common amongst gamers, leading Creative Assembly to move the game from 2D to 3D graphics. At some point, someone noted that the first 3DFX cards had been announced, and we thought we could do it in 3D, Simpson says. So we sat down, had a look at that and decided, no, there's no way that would ever work. Initially skeptical of the results of using 3D graphics, Simpson was surprised when a 3D rendered landscape turned out to be feasible for gameplay. We got a spline-based landscape, and to our great surprise it turned out to be feasible, Mike grins. At that point, everything changed. We moved the camera down to the general's viewpoint. You can't see things which are beyond hills or behind trees. That changed the nature of the game completely, moving it closer to the historical ideas. We didn't really have a setting in mind, states Simpson. Japan was a bit of a unique feature to go down a historical line. We did a few strategy things of getting people to move around, which looked quite cool, but was absolutely straight RTS stuff. From this point, the game began to turn away from being a simple low-risk product to something more substantial. The camera view was moved from the traditional real-time strategy top-down perspective to the position of the general on the battlefield. This viewpoint limited the extent to which the player could see across the battlefield. This fundamentally changed the nature of the gameplay. To accompany this, the game took on a more historical approach for its units and tactics. After a while, we realized it was better than that, and revised the whole thing, says Simpson. That iteration, where you look at what you got, look at the potential and realize that if you spent that much more time it'll end up much better, is important in making a good game. However, the game was not considered to be substantive enough simply with the real-time battles. Simpson recalls that the problem was that the battles themselves were very short, and we needed something to tie it together and make people care about the battles. The result was the introduction of the campaign map, intended to provide the player with a broader strategic perspective and context for the battles. A feudal Japanese setting was chosen. In addition to being thought of as cool, the Sengoku period was selected as it allowed for several different factions who could have potentially won the conflict, and due to the introduction of gunpowder to Japan, also allowed for rapid change for the game's technology tree. To make the setting as authentic as possible, Creative Assembly enlisted the aid of Stephen Turnbull, a military historian who specializes in samurai warfare, although the Jidegeki films by Akira Kurosawa also provided a source of inspiration. Excerpts of the famous Mount Fuji castle scene from his 1985 film Ran feature in the opening credits to the Warlord edition of the game. Elements of Sun Tzu's The Art of War were integrated into the game's artificial intelligence to provide more authentic decisions by computer-controlled factions. The throne room, says Mike, wincing, when asked about what went wrong. It's a very simple idea, viewed from the throne. Someone walks in, you have a chat with them, they go out again. But making it work took years of people's lives. It's making a video out of component elements. A large team worked on it, and most of them were relatively inexperienced. Then there is the cloth. We wanted everyone to have nice flowing material, but the technology of the day really wasn't up to it. Oscillating bits of cloth led to the infamous trouser snake problem. Now a design ideas often get dismissed as another throne room. The way we managed to get the history part right was always going to be very difficult, states Simpson. A lot of it hasn't even been written about, at least written about in English. We ended up doing a lot of research to get the details right. The fact that one of the Japanese reviews said, "Why does it take a group of foreigners to depict our history so well?" I was very proud of that. Shogun Total War was released in June 2000. The game received favorable reviews according to Metacritic. Jason Samuel of NextGen said, "Once you figure out the real-time interface, this is a thoroughly enjoyable experience that has a lot of replay value." Shogun is only the first of a proposed Total War series. We're sure looking forward to more.